stakeholders to be able to look at a set of features, but we didn't have the environments to do that. They needed time. I needed to push up a different branch, and so we needed a solution that would allow us to really just have our stakeholders know that if they needed 3 weeks to get back to us, that branch would be there, that environment would be there, and they could test it. Furthermore, I wanted to be able to, every time I got a pull request, I didn't want to have to pull down the code and set up the environment and do the tests. And I mean, I'd look at the code, but also just make sure that the database updates were working correctly, et cetera. So I heard through Ted about John and about DevShop and started playing around with it. And it's been really great for us. We've been running for over 2 years now. So our setup is on AWS. I've rebuilt our DevShop server dozens of times now, working through, working with John to try to improve the process. They moved from, Drupal 6, where you could only do Drupal 6 Aegir, which only supported Drupal 7, to now Drupal 7 Aegir, Aegir 3, which supports Drupal 8. We're a D7 site, but we've built a custom domain called Feature Test. So this is our project running up on AWS. And right now we have 2 environments. There's prod, which is a clone of our production site. And we have one project, ILR. Sorry, I hate it when the screen gets cut off like that. But our ILR project is our Drupal 7 site, our Drupal 7 site. And within that, there's currently 2 environments, right? Prod, which is a clone of our actual production site, and a branch called Navigation, which is a long-running branch which some of our teammates want so that they can just rework the navigation and start talking about how it's slimmed down, simple navigation, with the stakeholders. But we want to create a new environment. So there's a couple of things I want to mention. This is like mostly automated. There's a few pieces like the remote Acquia Cloud, remote aliases. Thank you. That's cool. I don't have that currently. So one thing you'll notice is so this is our production site, and this is our prod on feature test, right? So they're not the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to SSH in and sync the production site down. I've got a shell script, just sync prod. So that's going to pull the production database down, and it's going to allow those to be synced up. So now what I want to be doing is I've got a branch of my local system, which I could have made just a silly color change or something, but this is actually this is an actual environment that my team wants up right now. So what we've done on this environment is a lot of you are probably familiar with the paragraphs module. We take our basic page content type, which has a WYSIWYG, and we convert the body field into a paragraph bundle, and then we can start rebuilding pages in much more interesting ways on our site. So you can see in my Git log here, there's a couple of, so I'm adding the paragraph field, and then adding an update hook that moves the body content into that paragraph field, and then so after I run that, let's just push it up first to GitHub. Yeah. So I synced the prod database down to our feature test environment. Let's see if that is complete. Oops. Also, just a couple of things. The database gets sanitized when we pull our production database down as a part of that. And also, we enable a module, which I've called feature test, which does configure stage file proxy, etc. Oh, and let me show you the specific settings for our project. So what are we doing in terms of our GitHub integration? We create environments for pull requests. We delete them when something gets merged or removed. And let's see, what I want to show. So our deployment automation? No. Sorry, where is that? Oh yeah, sorry, this was looking for. The pull request environment creation is, we're copying prod. So our prod clone on feature test is what is used, the database is used whenever a pull request comes in. So immediately I know that I have our freshest data. If I've just synced the data down, and the code is coming straight from GitHub. So I just pushed that up. So presumably, if I refresh here,
What about the files?
we use stage file proxy.
Stage?
Stage file proxy, yeah. It's,
You'll love it. Look at
check it out. You should definitely be using it.
It just routes all requests to your production site, so you don't have to copy any files at all.
Yeah. So here you can see that environment was created. I mean, sorry, the branch is there, so I'm going to create a pull request, and it's going to start spinning up that environment. If I come back to DevShop here, you should see the little gear icon going, right? So now we've got DevShop kicking into gear. It's going to spin up that new environment. That's going to take a little while because it's got to copy that database over, etc.
But you can go to the dashboard and see it now, though.
Yeah. I can go to the dashboard, and I will see that it's in process. So there's a couple of other manual things that so here's our environment that's just been created, PR414. So one of the things is we don't compile code. We don't compile our CSS, or sorry, we don't commit our CSS, we compile it. I haven't finished automating that step on DevShop, but I could. I was talking to John about it. But basically, that means I need to manually push up the CSS for this branch, which is a step I have automated in other systems, but not this one yet. So this is just sort of like an interesting thing that I figured out you could do. If you can actually create dynamic drush aliases, which is pretty cool. So when I run a command, if the drush alias is at feature test, it basically automatically creates this dynamic alias. So I don't ever have to worry about creating local drush aliases for my feature test environments. I just need to know what the PR is called. So in this case, it's 414. So I have a script that I can run, which is, I think I need to cd into Docker, I can't remember. And I'm going to do bin, that's just feature test, CS, and I pass in an environment. In this case, it's PR, what number was it? 414? Yeah. All right. So what this is doing, it's a shell script that's just using that dynamic drush alias, and it's pushing that file up. And it fails because that's still running. So what it just told me basically is it wasn't able to connect to the database here. So that's going to take a little bit longer to run. But the point being, my two manual steps for this process are syncing the prod database down and pushing up my compiled CSS. Otherwise, everything's automatic.
Let's see. Your prod environment, you're syncing you're pulling the database down manually, but the code is just the same tag as your actual production environment?
So the way we run is we have a production branch, which is always, it's just a slightly modified, our master branch is production basically with a couple of modifications that are Acquia only. So, and prod here is running master. So the assumption is, unless someone makes a really stupid Git error, they're always going to be the same. I actually use a Git hook. On Acquia, I have, I'm able to, when I do deploy to test or to dev or test on Acquia, the CSS automatically gets deployed with a Git hook. And then I have a post-merge hook. When I'm merging master into production, I compile this, I check for a diff on the SAS files. And if there's a diff, I compile it and do an automatic commit to that branch, because Acquia requires that we compile it. But the only branch that has compiled CSS is our production branch. So that should be the only difference.
It's done.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So there's one thing I have to do, which is drush at feature PR 414, and there's currently, I haven't updated feature test. John helped me fix a bug a few weeks ago, and I haven't updated it yet. So I need to enable our ILR profile so that we don't get an error. And then I'm just gonna, yeah, there we go. So that tells me it's working, but I can do a status here. And I can see the information, you know, it's successful, it's using our theme. Great. So now if I go back and run that command to push up the CSS again, this time I would expect there would not be an error and it would tell me that it cleared the cache. So now we go back to that environment and I should see a nice, beautiful version of the site that looks just like our actual production site, assuming, uh-oh. Demo fail, let's see. Let me try, that looks to me like the
Logs.
same issue.
White screens or white screens.
Yeah, I know.
Do it ULI or something.
I think it's gonna be, this is gonna be the issue. Is that right? Drush ULI for that?
Well, just, it might show you the error,
Yeah, let me come in here.
if there is one. Ooh.
So that's what I expected, although I don't know, usually I think it's just here.
If it says process failed, then whatever that drush command returned to exit code, wrong exit code.
Got it. Okay. So, oh, this is not going to work actually, is it? Yeah, it's just, Drupal's just not wanting to come up.
Try to enable the error logs, or go look at
Yeah.
can you SSH in?
I think Watchdog is enabled. I can.
Well, the white screen would be a server error anyway.
Oh, right. So I didn't test this branch. I wonder if that's what it is, because basically this paragraphs basic page branch is work that I did a few months ago, so I wonder if that could be involved. But
Let's test the error log viewer though. We could actually,
Okay. Oh, okay.
yeah, go to this dashboard. Go to the environment settings for that project, or the PR, the site-specific settings. Drop down settings and then PR.
Yeah.
That's in two places.
This one here?
Yeah, or it's there. It's also up in the drop down. But
Got it.
then go to error logs.
Error
and
logs.
right in the middle.
Got it. Here?
Okay. Yeah,
Click on this.
that one's not enabled.
Got it.
Let's see. Yeah, see errors, that little errors link in your PR 414 header next to the Drupal version 7.56 errors.
Yeah.
Click that.
So is that retrying to verify the site after a certain time, or because you changed the environment setting?
Well, say that again?
It was retrying to verify? Is that just?
Every time you save the settings, it's an node edit Ager thing. Every time you say edit, every time you save a site node, it'll trigger a new verify.
Mm.
Weird. Ah, was that it?
Oh, wait, that's working.
So your error page, your page not found is working. But
Oh, here we go. Okay, I had not seen that before. It's working now. Go figure. But so we can actually, I'm logged in now, but you can verify that it is the same here as our production site, which before this was the prod. So basically we cloned prod, but in the meantime I had pulled down the database, so you can see our clone actually has the correct database. And I can't really explain what happened with the error.
yeah.
That's the first time in 2.5 years of working with it that the only other time I've seen that error is when our profile's not enabled. So we're approaching the end of our time. I want to, I guess, stop there. I think.
You know, I might have needed that verify.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's pretty much everything that I was going to show.
Well, go to the.
I know, I was going to, well, I guess I don't really have time, but I was going to actually show that this worked. If we go now to a page, I should see that both the node, so remember, this should have a new paragraphs field on these. Here's something. Oh. PR 414 DB. So I don't have update database automatically. No? Never mind. Okay. I think I'll leave it at that.
Go to the GitHub pull request page, so just so you can see the GitHub integration. If you go to the dashboard itself, or the DevShop dashboard, there it is. So you can see Afro deployed to. That you can set it to be like your bot account. So for me, I use DevShop bot because it's an API. So and it's doing these successful checks. So click Show All Checks down there, top right of the green box. Yeah. See, so DevShop/deploy means like deploying that code worked.
Right.
So it's not if you were having the hat tests, it would have a second line that said that would say tests, because the deployment itself is actually a test, right? If you can deploy that update and then it has to pass update database, it has to pass cache clearing, or you did something wrong.
So we do also have a Slack integration just with GitHub, so I know when someone on my team spins up an environment. So that's handy. And actually, John just showed me you can enable additional hooks within Slack that basically shows you that environment spinning up.
Yeah, there's a deploy setting. Go to the repo settings. We can do it right now. Slack by default doesn't set itself up to integration services or webhooks. Yeah. The Slack edit the Slack hook.
Yeah.
It doesn't enable this by default when you add Slack integration, but if you go into your settings, you can enable notifications of deployments, GitHub deployments, which is a thing that represents like deploying it to a server. It remembers what environment it deployed to. You can't remember his passwords, that's fine. But if you go in there and check
my master password that I have.
Yeah. If you check the box, it'll ping your Slack and it'll actually say, oh, Afro deployed, and it says deployment pending, and because that's when it starts. And then it says deployment success or deployment failed, and it actually puts a link to the specific environment, and that's a GitHub feature.
So that was a lot of info, but we're about out of time. Any burning questions? Yeah.
I guess probably the most important question: does your team enjoy working with them?
What my team loves is that they have the power to I don't have to block them. They can do this, and they can work with a stakeholder, and they don't have to wait for something on whatever's on our test environment on Acquia. That got really frustrating for people at a point where someone was testing something with a stakeholder, and then I didn't know that, and so I pushed up a different branch, and I'm like, where'd my work go? So yes. Different teams have different amount of tolerance for quirks or manual steps, but I think, this doesn't change much. People know they need to deploy the CSS if they're actually gonna show it to someone. Like, they're fine with that.
One of the follow-up questions to that is, knowing that now Acquia has Cloud CD, do you think that would be an enhancement to this process, or would you use that as a
Cloud what?
Cloud CD, their continuous delivery environment?
I haven't seen it actually.
Oh, okay. It's pipeline and Cloud CD. We're actually looking at for something similar, but there's a lot of holes that I think this fits.
Yeah.
And fills the void on.
Right.
So,
Right. And the coolest thing, this server's, I'm running it on a small instance on AWS. It doesn't take a lot of resources. There used to be an issue with backups filling up our disk space, but that is no longer an automatic thing. You change that at some point, which is great, because I didn't even know that setting was there. It was running daily backups, and so like our disk space was out, and the sites wouldn't install. But that's not an issue at all anymore. So yeah, I love it, and I really appreciate all the work John's put into this, and highly recommend it. One of the problems I think that a lot of teams have if you're at a shop is how do you if you're building a site with a lot of developers, how do you show your clients? And this is a really natural solution for that problem. And John and other people are running production sites. We're not using it that way.
Well, actually, that's the piece that I kept coming back to. I know that institutionally, it would be hard for my org to not work with somebody who's providing a whole suite of support in that regard. So self-hosting onto something like that I'd probably get resistance predominantly around security, and then kind of around support. And you know, I'm thinking like bus number. If DevShop is just you, John, at least from the commits I see, it's predominantly you by a long shot. You know, bus number. What happens to you if you go away?
Sure.
Using it in production, that was the question that kind of came up to me on those two things. Is it in the environment that you're running it, Aaron, as just a dev, it seems like that risk is lower, but it's
right
on the production level. I don't know. I guess that was the question that came up. It's like what how much support is there around and beyond just yourself?
I mean, most of this stuff is moving into core Ager, you know, and a lot of even most of the internals already are. So like hosting Git module handles deploying the code from Git repo. I'm working on getting deploy hooks in there. We're slowly but surely moving all that stuff into like core Ager, of which there is a much larger community, a lot more developers, other companies providing support. But yeah, at the same time, like I'm trying to grow my business. I'm already offering support contracts with a couple clients, and I'm actively speaking about it all the time to try to get people to start helping to contribute. But that in itself is tricky because it's like it's infrastructure. Like nobody wants to spend money or time on that. So it's yeah, it's just a matter of time. You know, it's just growing organically. I'm not trying to rush it, and I'm not really interested in like venture capital or anything yet. But you know, yeah, I need a better page on my website that says like support, and here it looks all professional, and like that's something I'm going to get around to at some point.
You build a site for that.
Huh?
Almost like you could provision a site for that.
What? I don't know how to build websites for myself anyway. It's a blocker. But it's coming. It's coming. You know, I'm constantly talking with friends and formulating the business plan and growing, you know, that possibility. Because, you know, like, you know, you might trust me as a developer, but obviously there's always someone, the boss or whatever, you got to send to be like, oh, this is the new, who we're thinking about to provide support or whatever. But basically that's my goal, is to have just standard support contracts that I'll act like a hosting provider, but it'll be on your own servers or whatever. But I think getting it into Ager and there's, you know, is my way of, you know, making sure this thing will live on beyond myself.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.